In 1937, the Washington State Legislature created the Toll Bridge Authority to pursue a long-standing dream, a bridge across the Tacoma Narrows. Funding was tight, toll revenues wouldn't cover costs, and a private ferry contract stood in the way. Despite financial hurdles, support came from the U.S. Navy and Army, both with nearby operations. The strategic importance of connecting Tacoma to the Kitsap Peninsula made the bridge a priority for regional defense and transportation. Washington State engineer Clark Eldridge drafted a conventional suspension bridge design with deep trusses beneath the roadway for stability. His plan called for 25-foot deep trusses to stiffen the span against wind. The Toll Bridge Authority requested $11 million from the Federal Public Works Administration. The funds were needed to realize Eldridge's solid, proven design that prioritized structural rigidity over elegance. Leon Moisseiff, a renowned New York bridge engineer, challenged Eldridge's design. Moisseiff proposed using his theory of elastic distribution to reduce construction costs with a slimmer structure. Moisseiff and Frederick Farquharson had published a breakthrough paper on elastic distribution. Their work extended deflection theory, showing how cable stiffness could absorb wind pressure and transfer it to towers and anchorages. Moisseiff argued for replacing deep trusses with shallow plate girders just 8 feet deep. The lighter design would be more elegant and cheaper, relying on cable flexibility to handle wind loads. The PWA approved nearly $6 million for Moisseiff's design in June 1938. The decision favored cost savings over robustness, setting aside Eldridge's more conservative truss-based plan. Construction began on November 23, 1938, following Moisseiff's design. The bridge's main span of 2,800 feet made it the world's third longest suspension bridge at the time. The structure was built with only 2 lanes and a narrow width of 39 feet. Its shallow girders provided minimal resistance to wind, making the deck inherently flexible. From the start, the bridge swayed under wind load. During construction, workers noticed the deck rising and falling in rhythm with the wind, prompting them to nickname it Galloping Gertie. The oscillations alarmed engineers, but the bridge continued toward completion. The nickname stuck, reflecting both the motion and the unease of those who worked on it. On July 1, 1940, the bridge opened to traffic. Drivers immediately felt the vertical undulations, with sections of the deck moving several feet in moderate winds. The swaying became a public spectacle. Some drivers reported nausea, while others treated it as a thrill. Despite the motion, no immediate structural failure occurred. To reduce movement, tie-down cables were attached to the girders and anchored to 50-ton concrete blocks on shore. The system failed quickly when the cables snapped under stress. Inclined cable stays were added from the main cables to the deck at mid-span. These stayed in place until collapse but did little to dampen the oscillations. Hydraulic buffers were installed between the towers and deck to damp longitudinal motion. During sandblasting before painting, the seals were damaged, rendering the dampers useless. Frederick Farquharson, an engineering professor at the University of Washington, was hired to study the vibrations. He began wind tunnel tests using scale models. The team built a 1/200 scale model of the full bridge and a 1/20 scale section of the deck. These models replicated the oscillations seen on the actual structure. Farquharson's studies identified aerodynamic instability as the root cause. The flat plate girders diverted wind above and below the deck, creating lift forces. He proposed drilling holes in the girders to allow air to pass through, reducing lift. This option was rejected as irreversible and potentially weakening the structure. The preferred solution was to add fairings, or deflector vanes, to make the deck more aerodynamic. This would smooth airflow and reduce oscillation. The recommendations were finalized on November 2, 1940. 5 days later, before any modifications could be made, strong winds struck the bridge. On November 7, 1940 winds reached 40 miles per hour. The bridge began to oscillate vertically at first, as it had before, but the motion soon changed character. Around 9:45 a.m., the oscillation shifted from vertical to torsional. One side of the deck began to twist upward, while the other twisted downward. Ruby Jaycox and Arthur Hagen were delivering goods when their truck tipped over. They fled on foot as the motion intensified beyond anything previously experienced. Leon Coatsworth, editor of the News Tribune, was driving across with his daughter's dog Tubby. His car slid side to side as he struggled to maintain control. Coatsworth abandoned the car and crawled toward the towers on hands and knees. Concrete cracked around him as the deck twisted violently. He described raw knees and swollen hands from gripping the curb. Breathing in gasps, he crawled over 450 meters to reach the toll plaza. Tubby, a 3-legged Cocker Spaniel, remained trapped in the car. Coatsworth tried to return but was thrown back by the violent motion. Howard Clifford, a photographer, walked onto the bridge to rescue Tubby. He turned back when the center span began to fracture. The twisting motion increased in amplitude, feeding on itself. Each cycle added more energy, with no damping to slow it down. At approximately 11:00 a.m., the main span collapsed. The deck broke apart and plunged into Puget Sound in large sections. Tubby died in the fall. Coatsworth received $814.40 in reimbursement for his car and the dog, a small compensation for the trauma. Barney, Elliott, and Harbeen Monroe filmed the collapse from the Tacoma side. Their 16mm Kodachrome footage captured the bridge's final moments. The film showed the unsuccessful rescue attempt and the bridge breaking apart. It was sold to Paramount and distributed worldwide in black and white newsreels. Most copies played at 24 frames per second, though Elliott filmed at 16. This made the oscillations appear 50% faster than real time. In 2019, Arthur Leach's footage emerged, shot from the Gig Harbor side. It included his commentary and may be the last known recording from that side. The Federal Works Agency formed a commission to investigate. Engineers Othmar Ammann, Theodore von Karman, and Glenn Woodruff led the inquiry. The commission explored three possible causes: self-induced vibrations, periodic eddy formations, and random wind turbulence. No definitive conclusion was drawn. Von Karman later reported that one insurance policy was void due to fraud. The agent, Halidar French, had kept premiums meant for $800,000 in coverage. Other policies covered 80% of the $5.2 million structure. Most were successfully claimed, but the fraud case drew public attention. The Navy's Hydrographic Office located the wreckage at 47 degrees 16's number 122 degrees 33 size W, 180 feet below the surface. The remains settled on the seafloor. The collapse was not due to resonance, as often misstated in textbooks. It resulted from aeroelastic flutter, a self-reinforcing oscillation with negative damping. Moderate winds above 35 miles per hour triggered the flutter. The bridge's design lacked sufficient stiffness to resist torsional forces generated by wind flow. The shallow plate girders acted like airfoils, producing lift. As the deck twisted, the aerodynamic forces amplified the motion instead of diminishing it. This was dynamic aeroelastic instability, specifically torsional flutter. Once begun, the oscillation grew until structural failure occurred. The failure transformed bridge engineering. Research into aerodynamics and aeroelasticity accelerated, influencing all future long-span bridge designs. Moise's reputation never recovered. Though he had designed other successful bridges, the Narrows collapse overshadowed his career. He died in 1943, possibly affected by the failure's toll. His son believed the collapse contributed to his father's declining health. In 1947, the ASCE established the Moise Award in his honor. It recognized excellence in structural design, preserving his legacy despite the disaster. The rebuilt Tacoma Narrows Bridge opened in 1950. It reused the original tower pedestals and anchorages, but featured a deeper, stiffer deck. The collapsed span now serves as an artificial reef. Fish and marine life inhabit the wreckage resting on the bottom of Puget Sound. The film of the collapse remains a teaching tool. It is preserved in the National Film Registry for its historical and educational significance. Engineering curricula use the footage to illustrate the consequences of ignoring aerodynamic stability in suspension bridge design. The story of Galloping Gertie is a human one, of ambition, flawed assumptions, and the cost of underestimating nature's forces.